Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mdfashionco here, and today I have a very special video for y'all. How I made my 1 kilo solid gold Mdfashionco pendant. This is a long story, ladies and gentlemen, so you're gonna need some popcorn. But first, I just want to say, this video will not be going into why I made this pendant. The reason why I made this pendant, I think, is very interesting, and it's said in detail, it's described in detail in the music video Trophy that I made when I revealed this pendant to the world. It's called Trophy by Mdfashionco. So, without further ado, let's get into how I made my solid gold 1 kilogram pendant, Mdfashionco pendant. But first, roll the intro! He had a dream to play Aliens Fireteam. He collects themes. He's got high self-esteem. He's credible. He's unforgettable. He's commendable. He's Mdfashionco.collectibles. Okay? So the first step was I had to get the gold. The hardest part was getting the gold because, as you all know, I came from zero. I did not come from money. And everything I have, I earned myself. So the hardest part was literally just getting the money to get the gold, because gold is not something that you just walk around and pick up off the ground. Well, at least nowadays it isn't, because it's incredibly valuable. So the money took me years to get, and the buying of the gold took me years too, because I was finding the right deal on the gold. I didn't just go and buy, bullion and all that. If you know anything about gold, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, well, you can still listen to this story. I think you're going to get some value from it. You're definitely going to learn something, as I learned something in this massive journey. Okay, so then after I got the gold, I had to get it refined because it was in different carats. So I had to find a refiner. So I hit up a lot of refiners in Melbourne, and they were giving me ridiculous quotes when it came to doing the piece, because it was either too little gold or too much gold. It was over a kilo. It was like 1.5 kilos of carated gold. So I found a bunch of these guys, and it's important to note, I started this process after I made the song Trophy, right? I started it in about January this year. Okay, so I started this process January of this year, and it's now the 7th month. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, right? And I dropped Trophy before, a few weeks ago. Anyway, so I'm looking for a refiner, and everyone I found in Melbourne was tripping because they had these ridiculous prices, or they just wouldn't do it because it wasn't enough gold or it was too much gold. So I found one in Adelaide, right? In my research, I found one in Adelaide which did it professionally for jewelers. And it also gave the granules that I needed after, the solid 24 karat gold granules after refining it. So what I did is I drove to Adelaide, which is an 8-hour drive away, right? I left at 3 p.m. and arrived at 2 a.m. in Adelaide. So I drove from Melbourne to Adelaide, and I slept in my car outside of a Repco after eating 2 burgers from Hungry Jack's. And then I went to the refiner in the morning, and I dropped my gold off and drove back to Melbourne. So that was 16 plus hours of driving in a 48-hour span, right? Because I wanted to drop my gold off myself. I didn't want to post it. So after that, after a week or a bit, then I got the gold refined, and it was sent back in granules to me. So I went about making the pendant. Now I have the solid 24 karat gold granules, and it was about 450 grams. In total. So now that I have my own gold, jewelry stores, if you have your own gold, jewelry stores will make this pendant for you, right? But they will charge way more than the gold is worth, which is simply not acceptable for me. To pay tens of thousands of dollars over the gold pendant price, tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars over the gold pendant price, it's just not acceptable to me. So when I reached out to a lot of jewelry stores, 98% of them, I'd say 99% of them turned me down, and the other 1% quoted me a ridiculously expensive price. And to be honest, and this ridiculously expensive price is something that rappers would get, obviously, because they're rappers, and when they make these massive pendants, then it's a big deal. But every other jeweler just dealt with rings and things. So when you come to them with something like this, 98% of them just say F off, or 99% of them just say F off. This is not happening. I'm just not doing this. And then the other 1% said, okay, so if you're this stupid to make a 1 kilo pendant, you must be so stupid with your money that I'm going to charge you out the ass. Anyway, so I had no choice after hitting up all these jewelers to say, no, well, I have to do this myself. There's no way that these people are going to do it for me. And they're just not. I can't just go to one person and he's just going to do the whole thing for me. So I commissioned a man from Fiverr to make a 3D model of the pendant, right? And then I sent the 3D model to a graphite manufacturer. So my idea was to commission someone to pour the gold into a graphite mold. And similar to the way investment grade ingots are made, because it is essentially just an ingot. And I looked at some videos on YouTube of the detail that it came out in, and it wasn't great detail, but it was able to be fixed up, I thought, right? So after hitting up all the graphite manufacturers in China and in Australia, one said they could do it. Like, I hit up all of them. And all of them said, no, we can't do it. Then one said they can do it. So I paid them to make a one-off, right? Mdfashionco graphite in gold. And then a few weeks later, they said they couldn't do it because the detail was too fine. Honestly, they just didn't want to do it. Like, which is what has happened since the start of this. People just don't want to do it. So, and they never have to do it because who the hell wants a 1 kilo solid gold pendant? That's something that I want. And the reason why is in Trophy by Mdfashionco. So I'm back to square one, right? I have my gold, and so what am I going to do with this? But I wasn't going to give up. I couldn't give up because I don't give up. So I spoke to a 3D printing place in Sydney, because I was looking at now places in Sydney who do 3D printing with metals and stuff. And about making the pendant, I was speaking to them, and he quoted me about, well, I'm not going to say the number, but he quoted me a lot of money, near 6 figures. But he said a better way to do this would be to sandcast, right? That's a way that you can pour molten gold into a sand mold, right? That you make. Anyway, you can look that up if you want to know. So he said we could sandcast it. Well, he could. That's the way to do it. So in order to sandcast, you first need a 3D print of the pendant. So I commissioned a place using the 3D model to make a 3D print. And then after some toing and froing, we settled on the material and the man hand delivered it to me, right? But before we did that, I was speaking to a sandcaster, and he said that you have to make the angles not 90 degrees. Otherwise, when you take the 3D print out of the sand, it's going to catch sand. If you don't understand the technical difficulty of this, don't worry about it. I can explain it later. In person, but it's not important for the story. Just know that it was difficult to get a 3D print that actually worked for the sand casting. Okay, so then I hit up all the sand casting places in the area. One responded, and it was a guy out the back of a car manufacturer's warehouse, and it was just 2 guys, and they didn't even do it for a business. They did it as a hobby because they were just like, may as well give it a crack. That'll be fun, because they just do things that people find are fun. So I bought the master alloy, and the master alloy is the stuff that fills up the parts that isn't gold, right? So 9 karat gold is like over 1/3 gold, and the rest is a master alloy mixed of silver, copper, and zinc. I believe. I'm pretty sure it's silver, copper, and zinc. So I had a total of 1.1 kilograms of material, solid 9 karat gold, all scheduled up to pour. And so I went there, and then I poured it. We poured it, and that's the pour that you saw in the Trophy music video. If you look at the Trophy music video with the pour, that's the pour that you saw. And after I did the pour, and he took it out, and I saw it. I paid him $50 extra, actually, for their service, because I was so happy that I was getting somewhere, that I've actually poured this gold into something that resembles an Mdfashionco pendant. So then I went to get the piece finished because the piece was not finished. The sand casting was rough. The issue was that there was porosity everywhere over it, and there was also some graphite on it too. And graphite is not a part of 9-karat gold. Graphite is a black metal. So I was like, okay, well, a jeweler can fix this, right? So, and so what happened was I got the piece XRF'd. And XRF means to see the content of gold, to see if I mixed the gold correctly. It was 8-karat on the bottom of the pendant and 10-karat on the top. So it hadn't been mixed properly. Because if it was mixed properly, it would be 9-karat all the way over the through. So I started to look for people to finish the job regardless. And so I went to there's a big building in the center of Melbourne. It's like the diamond jewelry district in New York City, but in Melbourne. And I went all up and down to knocking on doors, just cold knocking on doors to all these jewelers, right? Asking them to finish this job. And every single one rejected me. Every single one said, this job is too much. We've never done it before. We don't know how to do it. And because these guys, again, are used to finishing wedding rings. They're not used to finishing a 1 kilo solid gold pendant. And anyway, so that's the one thing they all told me. And then the other thing they all told me was that there's a guy on a certain level and he has a name and he might be able to do it, but they all said it as a joke. I remember one lady at the front said, oh yeah, this guy will be able to do it. And then the jeweler in the back laughed. And so what I did was I went and I went to the level and I knocked on the door. I knock, and the guy came to the door and he said, you know, who are you? And I said, I have a pendant. And he said, oh, well, do you want to write about it in the newspaper? Sarcastically. And I thought, okay, well, this person will probably be able to help me. So I showed him the piece. And he said, okay, well, first we got to put it in an acid bath because there's graphite over it. And we don't want it to look like that. So we did that overnight. Then I came back the next day and he said, it's effed. Frankly, there's so much porosity, so you need to do it properly. And I said, yes, I tried to do it. I tried to get it cast, right, which is injection casting, which is the way that most jewelry is done. It just can't be done because everybody told me to F off when I asked them to do it because they said, there's no way we're going to do this. And so he said, okay, well, I want to help you because I like your tenacity and I like the fact that you don't give up because he saw me with this thing. He saw that this guy is not going to stop. Everyone told him no. And he said, well, he still came here with this ugly looking pendant. He's not going to stop. So he respected that, which is a beautiful thing. So he said, you know, I'm going to help you. So he said, we're going to get a wax and we're going to do it. And we're going to get a wax and then put the letters on the top. And he had a new way of doing it, right? Which was, I think it's called the lost wax process. And you can look that up if you want to, if you're interested in that, but we were doing it in another way. So he said, okay, I'm going to go get the letters made. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then a week goes by. And keep in mind, these are months and months passing at this point, right? Ever since I got the gold. It's been months and months and months, right? This is a very, very long process, about 6 months. And so he was getting the letters made with a 3D printer. Now, the 3D printer didn't talk to me before because he said F off. Because I said that's what I'm doing. But since I went with that jeweler guy, then he was like, oh, okay, so I know him. So, okay, we can do this job and you're serious. And so he said he was getting the letters made. Anyway, so he called me one day out of the blue at like 7 p.m. And he said, he just went out, this jeweler guy, and he went on about how I'm new to the industry and then I better learn some stuff from him. You know, because he doesn't have many heartbeats left. He was having a real existential moment on the phone to me at 7 p.m. And he said, this is a quote, direct quote. He said, your piece is a wank. It's a wank. But I'm going to help you because I like a guy who'll never give up. And he was having, and he spoke briefly about his father who had passed away. And he said, And he finished the call abruptly by saying, "I'm going to have dinner, goodbye," and then just hung up. Beep, beep, beep. And so I was just like, well, okay. That was somewhat heartfelt because at least someone's going to help me make this thing, right? Anyway, thankfully, I still had my gold with me. I waited a week and there was no response, and he didn't respond to phone calls or anything. So did this guy just... I don't know what happened to this guy. To this day, I don't know what happened to this guy. But what I have now is a 9-carat mixed pendant that has a bunch of porosity in it. And it seems that I'm almost back to square one. So once again, as I said, I was stuck with the piece. So I went back to the building where I bought the masked alloy, right? Where I bought all the granules of stuff that isn't 9-carat gold, to see if there were any other jewelers in a last-ditch effort, I guess, right? Because to just cold call some more people in another building, because that entire building of the Diamond District of Melbourne had failed me. Nobody wanted to do it, and then the one person who said he wanted to do it was having an existential crisis. So I go to a jeweler's door, and for some reason I decide to knock on it because, you know, I'm looking for anyone. A man answers the door, and I show him the piece. He says he can do it, and I find out later that this guy has done pieces for presidents. This guy has done even solid 18-karat gold scissors for the opening of a casino, right? So this guy understands the fascination with gold and the prestige of it, right? And he, well, frankly, doesn't have a stick in his bum. So he says, "Okay, I think I can make this work." So he says, "Come with me and we'll walk to the casting place." And it was one of the same places that told me to F off, because everybody told me to F off in literally the jewelry industry in Australia told me to F off. And they said when they saw the thing and they saw that I had poured it in the sand cast, they knew I was serious. They said, "We can't do it because it's too heavy. The crucible we have in our injection molding machine, right, holds 800 grams of gold max. But this thing is over 1 kilo. And then the man, the new jeweler, we'll call him the new jeweler, said, let's make a solution, right? Let's make it into 3 parts, cast the front, and then cast the back, and then take the rest of the gold and pour it into an ingot and put it in the middle." Because they asked me, you know, "Why don't you just make it hollow? Why don't you just make a pendant on the front and nothing on the back? Why, you know, that would be so much easier." And I said, 1, it wouldn't be 1 kilo, and 2, it needs to be solid. Something that's very important to me is that when everything you see from the front is not fake, it's not hollow, it's all solid, right? And that's why the piece is so damn heavy, and it's also why that goes more into the spiritual and the meaning of gold and why I love it so much. So we can talk about that another time. We're just talking about how I made this pendant, right? But I hope you boys understand why I didn't make it hollow. It's because I'm a real boy. And everything has to be solid all the way through. Anyway, so these casting guys did not want to do this job. They did not. And they you know, to make 2 parts, and it would just be finicky and it would cost a lot. It would be more trouble for them. So I think they thought that when they quoted me how much it would cost, that I would just say, "No, that's too much." Because they're used to doing rings for like $40 per cast, $40 per cast. So they quote me a lot of money compared to that, right? And after they quoted it, they say, "Well, yeah, okay, we'll do it, but it'll cost you this much." I said, "You want cash?" And then he was a bit shocked. He was like, "What? Yes, I'll take cash. I'll take cash for that." And then he said, "Well, we will do our best, okay? We can't promise anything because we've never done this before, so we'll do our best." Okay, so I said, "Okay, great." So then we go back to the new jeweler, and he tells me, rightfully so, that we can't use this gold because it's contaminated. It has graphite in it that stuck to it from the sand casting that I did. So he had to refine it again, and he has a refining thing that he does on the weekends. So he does, and he re-refines the gold. And as a result of this refining, there's a bit of chemistry here, boys. If you don't understand it, that's okay. But as a result of the refining, the zinc in the master alloy oxidizes and burns off, and it looks like white smoke when you refine the gold. So that means that the gold content goes over 9 carat. The gold is 9 carat, but it's actually over. It's like 9.2 carat. And if you don't understand that, don't worry, but all you have to know is that the gold I'm using now has a higher percentage of gold, which is not a bad thing, and it's over 9 carat. So it weighs less, but the gold content stayed the same. So as a result, the gold, there's more than 9 carat, and that's important to me. If it was under 9 carat, then again, I'm a cap boy, and I'm a real boy, so I don't cap. When I say that it's 9 carat, it is 9 carat, or over, and it's definitely over. I know that, but this is just, again, a thing that's very important to me. I don't wear anything fake. So anyway, so a week goes by, and I asked the casting place how the wax is going, how the cast is going, and they said they showed me a picture. They broke the front because it's too big, and they've never made it before, and there were no supports on it, so they had to make supports on it. And so then, and keep in mind, months and months and months are going by again, and I'm sitting on Trophy and Masterpieces, the EP that is out right now. I'm sitting on that, knowing that it's a masterpiece, knowing that, and everything that I know, everything that you see right now, but I just can't go ahead because I don't have this 1 kilo solid gold pendant. So this is very, very frustrating for me, obviously, but you know, all in good time. So they have to make the wax again because they're making the front of the wax, and then it broke because it was too fragile. So then they made it again, and then for some ungodly reason, right, they casted the back instead of the front. So then they asked me, could you have more gold so we can make the front of the Mdfashionco? And I said, the jeweler said, why did y'all boys make the freaking back first? You should have made the front. And that was just the most stupid thing ever. So anyway, so they make the front and they don't make the back then. So they make the front and it's 300 grams, and they have the back, which is like 800 grams. And it wasn't the back. It was just 2 ingots of gold that weighed up to 800 grams. So I said, okay, look, let's just do it. Now that you've made the front and it looks great, right? It looks perfect. It looks as you see the pendant right now today. Say, okay, I will, all right, let's do it. So I go and I pay them cash, right, as I said, and I pay them cash to make the front of this pendant, and they pat me on the back sarcastically, being like, oh, good on you, good on you, good on you. And they were really meaning, as they were saying, this guy's crazy as F. This guy's crazy. Anyway, so now we take the 800 grams of gold and the 300 gram front, right, of the pendant with the bail on the top, right? We take that back to the new jeweler, and it's time for the new jeweler to put them together. So this took months because I needed the inside to be solid, right? So what he did was he made the 2 ingots. He made an ingot to fill in the back, right? And then another ingot to put behind that and seal it up on the back. And he called me and one day, and you know, so I could watch him put the ingot in the middle, and so it's solid. It's like the ingot inside, there's no wiggle room, right? It's completely like ding, ding, like you had to use a hammer to get it in because it's solid in there. And then, so the piece is solid, and then the base plate was put on too, and he went ding, ding, ding. Anyway, so he had a torch on the jeweler's bench that he had there, but it wasn't big enough to heat it, because you have to heat up the back. So then he needed a bigger torch. So he asked me to, so he said, okay, I'm going to go back to my refining place, and I'm going to use a bigger torch to ding, 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 and you know, put this thing together. So then he calls me a few days later and said, I effed the piece. He effed it up because he used this big torch to heat up the thing. He heated up too much and he bent the piece. So he said he effed it up. He effed up the pendant. And so I said, well, okay, what can we do? And he said, okay, I can bend it back, right? But the back will have a bulge because he can't fix the entire thing. And I said, look, I just want this piece done. So if you have to make the back bold, if you can't make the back perfect, then just do it. I want the front has to be perfect. The most important thing is the front is perfect and it's solid all the way through 9 karat gold. That's the most important thing to me. And it's over a kilo. Those 3 things are the most important things to me. So then I go back and he goes, okay, so he makes it and then there's a bulge at the back, but he says, I can laser the back. And I said, okay, just do what you can to keep the thing in there. So he used the laser machine to go around the back and weld it. Okay, so then after that, we pretty much have the solid gold pendant. The easiest part at the end was the most cosmetically satisfying, where I asked to make a matte finish on the front, and then shiny letters, and then mirror finish on the letters, and then a mirror finish all the way on the sides. And then that was the end of the pendant, and it was done. And yeah, so after he had done the pendant, he showed me he took a picture of the pendant and then put it in his book. And as I said, he had a book of works, which were rings that he'd made for presidents of countries and things like that. And yeah, and that's how I made the 1 kilo solid gold 9 karat Mdfashionco pendant. It was a very, very, very long process. But as y'all boys know, the process took 6 months. And I did it. I know shouldn't have to tell you boys this, but I did it because my art is literally my life. My art is everything I live for. The purpose of my life is to create this amazing masterpiece artworks, whether or not boys respect it or not. And I know a lot of boys do. So I want to thank all the Mdfashionco fans. Obviously, thank you to everybody who's showing massive support towards masterpieces. There's Trophy and Normal Woman going crazy right now. Obviously, Normal Woman, the masterpiece by Mdfashionco. So I'm going to see y'all boys later. Enjoy. I hope y'all boys enjoyed that video, but this is just cementing the story I went through to make this 1 kilo solid gold Mdfashionco pendant. The best pendant in the Southern Hemisphere? Who knows? I'm gonna see y'all boys later. Mdfashionco, I am out. I want to shout out all the Patreons who is supporting Mdfashionco. All y'all turn up. Let's get it. Shout out to Dagenham Dave. He is not a slave. This is where your name will be if you're a Patreon.
All y'all turn up right now.
If you join the Patreon for $2.50 a month, you get a shout out on the videos and get to go to the Discord channel with the pros. Boys can't comment in or can't chat in unless they part of the Patreon thing. So look down below for the This is the voiceover for the end of This is the end of the Mdfashionco.collectibles video because I can't upload duplicate videos to Mdfashionco and Mdfashionco.collectibles, and I want to upload this video to both YouTube channels, so I'm putting this at the end. So enjoy. Goodbye.